like to begin every program by remembering my Guru Swami Muktananda here, who began every program by saying in Hindi, Sabko bari sanmani ke saath, prem se hridik swagat. With great respect and love, I welcome you all with all my heart. And also, very happy New Year to everybody. And it's very kind of you to come by here on your way to your party. And we'll try to get you out of here before midnight. So my message for this year is nurture the inner power. Nurture the Kundalini Shakti, the divine power within, our essential power. And how do we nurture that inner power? Well, we have to know who we really are. We have to expand that power. And we have to follow its lead and move in the direction it suggests, and not in the direction that our ego suggests. So there are a lot of challenges. And there are two basic approaches to spirituality. One emphasizes the problem, and the other emphasizes the solution. Shaivism calls the problem mala, or the contraction. We can also call it ignorance. And the list is pretty unpleasant. Depression, anger, fear, jealousy, greed, obsession, hatred, and self-hatred. So in this approach, what you do is you get rid of these things, which are the result of bad habits and historical tendencies learned in your childhood, and product of just plain stupidity sometimes, and sometimes just plain stubbornness, cussedness. I wanted to say that word, cussedness. So this is the negative. It's very hard to get rid of all these tendencies. But on the positive side of the ledger, the goal is simply God. And I know that word is allergy producing. Some people find it to be wonderful. Some people, it gives hives. So let's say the goal is also the true self, the upward shift, supreme consciousness, your true self, your authentic self. To be who you really are is the goal. And both of these paths are valid. You can't get to the self without getting rid of the obstacles that stand in the way of the self. So sometimes you have to focus on the highest, and sometimes you have to remove the blocks and knots in your psyche that stand in the way. And how do you know which one to do? Well, you just know it, or you don't. So sometimes you get rid of the blocks, and sometimes you move towards the highest. But this year the message is from the positive side. And this tradition, the tradition of Bhagwan Nityananda and his disciple and my guru, Baba Muktananda, and many other great beings, is famous for the awakening. I don't think there's another tradition that gives such a powerful awakening of the Kundalini Shakti. People have many kinds of awakenings. They get Shaktipat, the awakening of the Kundalini energy, and they attain cosmic consciousness in a second. Or they fly off to other planets, and they visit Jesus among the angels, or Krishna in Vaikuntha, while others have more gentle and sedate and sensible awakenings. Movements of energy, new insights, feelings of love and peace, a sense of meaningfulness, where before everything seemed meaningless. But whatever the nature of the awakening, after some time, after the awakening, it tends to fade, and we lose touch with it. But it never goes away, because it can't go away, because it's our true nature. But different mundane concerns, the claims of family, career, personal neuroses come up. For a while, the personal neuroses are out. It's like falling in love. When you fall in love, you become better than you are. In that brief moment of 17 minutes, I mean 17 days, where there's true love, you become exalted. You're selfless, you're generous, you're open-hearted, you're loving. There's no self-concern, no me, me, me. It's what can I do, my darling? And then that initiation fades a little bit and suddenly grumpy, grumpy. And you're not who I thought you were. Well, it happens spiritually too. Therefore, my message this year is nurture the inner power. I want you all to resolve to nurture the inner power, nurture the Kundalini Shakti. And we should worship that power. And when I say worship, I don't mean to wave incense and lights and ring bells, not that there's anything wrong with that. We really like that here. What I mean is to pay attention to it. You paying attention now? Attention to it. The best material of worship is your attention. Human consciousness is my deity. And where you put your awareness, that's your life. And everybody wants attention, and what you give your attention to, that determines everything in your life. So there's no higher thing. So give your attention to the highest power within you. That's what I'd like you to do this year. Sometimes I tell a husband, you should worship your wife. He looks at me strangely. He says, what does that mean? I said, listen to her. Pay attention to her, because deities love to have your attention. So pay attention to your inner power. Pay attention to the Kundalini. Watch it carefully. Your inner being will tell you, and be responsive to it. The scriptures say that within every person is the latent divine power, and I'm completely convinced of this. Every single one of us has this latent power, this greatness, this potential within us. When it awakens, we begin to know who we really are. Not in the mind, not in a mental, superficial way, but in a deep, visceral, and profound way. And the Guru awakens this power through Shaktipat. And that's a great moment in life. Baba said, this is a divine initiation. The Parasurama Kalpa Sutra says, Shaktipat awakening is the third initiation. Very interesting, the third initiation. He says, Baba, first you're initiated by your mother. So that is the first initiation. In India, they say the mother is the first guru. The mother gives so many teachings and so much of the training the mother gives. Says, as you grow up, you start getting more knowledge from other people. And that's the culture starts to educate you, you know. And I think this peaks. We become aware of ourselves, and we become aware of other people and what they think of us. And particularly at puberty, we become obsessed and insane. And we look around, and that's the second initiation. And he says, finally you start learning things from a great being. And that knowledge is the true knowledge. This is the third initiation. It's the spiritual awakening. For this reason it said that this initiation is the third initiation. When you're initiated, you become that. The meaning of this initiation is to know your true nature, that you are that divine self. You become your own self. Parashakti, the great Shakti, is within us all the time, and it is supremely compassionate. But not every one of us is aware of its immense compassion. And in the scriptures, they describe the Kundalini as a serpent, a snake, coiled up 3.5 times, lying with his head down at the base of your spine, asleep, the base chakra. And when it awakens, it journeys upward, clearing the way through the different chakras, the centers of the navel, the heart, and so on, and opening up, and then finally coming to rest in the topmost center, called the 1,000-petal lotus, the Sahasrara. Sometimes they say Shakti joins Lord Shiva there. And then it stabilizes there. And then a being enters higher consciousness. But seeing it as a point, when the Sushumna is a point, the awakening takes place and this point expands. And that awakening can take place in the heart, or it can take place in the third eye. When it awakens in the heart expands, and you feel great love and divine union. And when it awakens in the third eye, you're flooded with light and with wisdom and new understanding. And you get an expansion of consciousness way superior to psychedelic drugs, but an expansion of awareness where things are united and you see things in a very deep way. And once you have this awakening, whatever model applies to what happens, you start to know the truth. And then, as I said, after that awakening, the truth tends to fade. We tend to forget it. So that when we lose that, when that knowledge fades, we have to do some work. We have to nurture it. We have to nurture the inner power. We have to nurture the Kundalini Shakti. If you focus on the mundane in your life, you end up with very little. If you focus on the Kundalini, on the inner power, you will end up with everything. Therefore, nurture that inner power. Never sacrifice this inner power to the mundane. Offer your mundane life into the fire of Kundalini and everything will happen. Baba says, for a person who pursues Kundalini, the female aspect, the Shakti, a person who meditates on Kundalini, a person who holds Kundalini inside after receiving Shaktipat, finds that liberation is in this palm and the worldly enjoyment is in this palm. So he does not have to accept or reject anything. He has everything. So moksha, or liberation, is in one hand, and bhoga, which is worldly pleasure, in the other hand. Gets both yoga and bhoga, Baba used to say. You don't have to renounce the world, you get both. He says, so this is the significance of Kundalini Vidya. You get both yoga and bhoga. Like tonight, you have satsang and you go to your party. So you have yoga and bhoga. No? Parashakti Kundalini is the wish-fulfilling cow. For this reason, meditate on her. All beauty belongs to Parashakti, the divine mother, the divine goddess, the feminine divine. Shiva has no form. He has no attributes. He's good for these Swami, Baba says, these Swamis. Not for you and me. Shiva is completely formless and without attributes. He just stays still. He doesn't do anything. He does not have any fun. It is Parashakti who has a lot of fun. This is Baba's sense of humor. He's saying that if you practice meditation this way, you can enjoy the pleasures of life from a new perspective. So the message for 2012 is to nurture the inner power, the Kundalini power. I proclaim it the year of Kundalini. If you haven't awakened the Kundalini, this is the year to awaken it. If your Kundalini has fallen asleep, it should wake up again. If your Kundalini is scrawny and neglected, this is the year to nourish it. So once again, with great respect and love, I welcome you all with all my heart, and many blessings for a Shakti-filled 2012. Satgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.